I'm a 16-year-old dude, and this happened a few weeks ago. I'm fairly chill, and I live with my grandfather on the east side of Kentucky, barely above the Tennessee line. I'm a big guy, and typically I don't do anything particularly bad. I don't smoke, I don't dip, I don't even drink. To be clear, my grandfather is 76, and has just beaten some type of leukemia. I'm a welding nerd also. It's the thing I enjoy most at school. Sometimes when I can't sleep, or I wake up in the middle of the night, I put on some clothes and go outside to my shed. My shed is really a spare 2-car garage with metal working equipment inside. I find the sound of the arcs pleasing to my ear while I'm tired, and it can help me ease my mind, as I'm a nervous person to begin with. Now, if you're familiar with eastern Kentucky, it's like a bowl. Mountains around you 360 degrees. The thing like coyotes and snakes are common to see rummaging around at night, but they don't really scare me because the path to my shed is well lit and concrete. I have a few windows in the building, all but 2 are broken, out from stupid shit I did as a little kid. The inside of the shop is actually brighter than my bedroom. There's plenty of light, so I turned my ventilation on, set up my welder, and started welding on some scrap metal to practice the 3F position, aka vertical welding. With my shielded metal arc welding process, I do this a lot, and no one really minds as my ventilation system is rather quiet, and you'd have the hearing of a bat to notice it in another house. I'm sat there in my metal stool and something is wrong. I'm a pretty talented welder by nature. It comes as natural to me as breathing. So when my welding looked shaky and there was splatter everywhere, I knew something was wrong. My welder was set right, so I hadn't bumped it with my knee when welding. I heard something like a cowbell. My neighbor had a cow in his yard, so I figured she got out. It happens a lot, so I looked outside and didn't see her anywhere. This isn't a calf, this is a nearly full-grown cow that weighs upwards of 1,200 pounds. They don't just vanish into thin air. I checked another window and could barely see anything. My shed may be bright, but the trees block most of the light out at night. But I did see something. Now, I kind of wish I hadn't seen it. It was deformed, weird, and long. It had fur. So I thought it was just looking at a coyote's back, but no, this thing was too big to be a coyote, or a wolf, or too skinny to be a bear. Imagine a stereotypical Bigfoot and starve him. That's what this looked like. Somehow, it was more greasy and horrible than I first thought. I turned my welder off and then ran back into my house. I grabbed a flare gun and headed back outside. Looking back on this, I really don't know why I didn't grab my grandfather's rifle. I have a hunting permit, and this thing is on my property. Somehow in my head, shooting a flare at it was the best idea since inventing electricity. So I opened the window and shot a flare at the thing. I don't think I regret anything more than I regretted that. It looked up, and its face was horrifying, like a bulldog. Its face was scrunched up and small, protruding out just enough to notice. And to make it all worse, it was on a big round head. It looked at me, howled, and screeched and ran. I guess the flare was as scary to it as it was to me. I found out that my neighbor's cow had had the bell stolen off it and been scratched deeply in the neck, back, and the legs. I told everyone about what I saw, and what worries me now is that another neighbor of mine claims to have seen it too. It took a chicken of his. So this actually happened to me today, and it felt like something I should share here as a caution to others. I live in a small town not too far from Edmonton, and recently there had been a series of armed robberies happening in and around the area. It made me worry about walking alone at night, so I found myself home at night more often than usual. It's not the worst, but I dislike having this feeling of unease, but I managed to make do. So today my dad and his girlfriend were invited out to a party, meaning I had the whole house to myself. I pretty much had the evening planned out, watch some episodes of my favorite soap opera, then switch it over to some classic horror films. So I said bye to them, and as they left, I quickly loaded up the TV. It was not long after I had started up the horror movie that I heard a knock at the door. It wasn't a regular knocking. If my TV had been any louder, I probably wouldn't have been able to hear it. Thinking it was nothing at first, I went over to the door without pausing the movie just to confirm. But to my surprise, there was someone at the door. I opened the door and there stood a slim man, looked to be in his mid-30s, and that's all I could pretty much say. I'm not the best when it comes to describing people, and I didn't really go out of my way to analyze him at the moment. I couldn't even tell you if his jacket was gray or black. The man said he represented a security company and was going around my area to offer his company's services. He asked if the owner of the house was home, to which I told him no, and that he would not be home until late. He then began giving me some quick information about his company, that it was the only one that was locally funded, and that it's already being used in several homes on my street, and that it's smart device friendly. He even showed me a laminated piece of paper that displayed all the different devices that could work with the security system. I told him that we weren't interested in having a security system at this time. He proceeded to ask me if my family leaves the house for long trips, which would be a great reason to get a security system. Looking back now, this was a huge red flag, but I answered honestly that the house was almost never empty and that we never really went on trips. I also added that he could speak to my dad tomorrow if he was coming back. He told me that his team would be leaving to another city tomorrow, thanked me for my time, and then left. I went back to my movie, pretty much forgot about the visitor. The movie finishes, and I decided to check my Facebook to glance at the buy and sells. Near the top of my feed is a shared post that caught my eye immediately. What I read made me completely freeze up. It was from a woman who had also talked to a representative from the exact security company I had been advertised. This guy knocked on her door softly too, which immediately caught my attention. She noted how the guy never gave his name or business card, something I didn't even realize happened to me until I thought back. Overall, she was very suspicious of the guy, so she thought he waited outside as she got home, pen and paper to write down his phone number. When she returned, he was gone. The next door neighbor told her that she saw the man running down the road into an alley, but the biggest fact this woman dropped: she contacted the security company. It doesn't actually exist. They told her that they didn't send anyone out to the city to go door to door. This shared post is blowing up, and it seems that it occurred to a lot more people than just me. Some people even showed video from the security cameras of these employees. There's definitely more than one person pretending to work for this company, one even being a woman, and a lot of strange activity being reported. One person going into the backyard without permission, another person standing in front of the house like they're scoping it out. Knowing all this now, it makes the entire encounter with the guy at my door terrifying. Was he scoping my house out too? Would he have tried something if I didn't answer? I also wonder, was he hesitant to try anything because I didn't pause my movie? For all he knew, I could have had a friend over. Luckily, nothing serious happened for the rest of the night, but I will be extremely cautious from now on. If there's one thing I would advise, be suspicious of anyone you don't know that comes to your house. Just because they say they work for a company doesn't make it true. You don't know who they are, or what they might actually want from you.